Hi, I'm Mr. Essig, and I'll be covering the EFDC inauguration trip for 2025 for Barrington Middle School. So, if you'd like to be and stay in the loop and get all the details as they come out, please scan the QR code, pause the screen, sign up, and then when you're ready, hit play, and I'll continue for you. For everybody else, I'm going to go on to the next slide. So I'm Mr. Essig. I teach 7th grade civics at Barrington Middle School. My first travel experience was Disney World down here in Orlando. I didn't grow up down here, so going to Disney was like a big thing, and your parents saved for a while to go. And I still remember it to this day. Then most importantly, why do I want to travel with your students is because we get to see history right before our eyes. So I have two photos of two of my trips. I've been on 4 trips. We're going to see a president of the United States get inaugurated, give a speech, have a parade. And we get front row, well, we got tickets pretty close to see that all happen. Not everybody who gets to see a president get inaugurated in their lifetime, and EF was gracious enough to offer me this opportunity, and I'm bringing it to you. So, 4 days in DC, it will not look this beautiful in DC, I can tell you that. It will be cold, but it will look clear. Then the water might be clear, and the ducks might be enjoying themselves, but it will be cold. Okay, I usually go in May and June, and it's beautiful. It will be a little colder in January. So what we'll cover on this trip, in the slides, my side, our travel partner, which is EF, our travel window, which is the 18th of January to the 21st, everything we will see before, during, and after the tour, the lasting impact of the travel, all that's included, and how to reserve your student spot. Spots are filling up fast. I did have a meeting Thursday and a meeting in May. So spots are limited and filling up. So why EF? 1, because they care. 2, because they have a great warranty or insurance package. And 3, because they took the time to make me feel comfortable and safe on the trip, which I know what I'm doing, so I can make you guys feel safe and comfortable with your children being on the trip. So they did not let me host a trip until I went on a trip myself. They have been in 55 years business, and they have one of the best insurance packages, meaning you pay a down payment just like you will any other trip, but everything else besides that, you can cancel up to the day of the trip and get all your monies back. So as a dad of a 13-year-old, 12-year-old child who will be 13 on this trip, who wants to go with me and spend time with dad in DC, like, I'm all for that. I love it. It's the first time my daughter's old enough to go on a trip. But if something were to happen and she wasn't allowed to go on the trip, I would want my money back, because like, I could use that money back. I know we all can. So it's nice knowing that that's in the back pocket. All right, when do we travel? Like I said, January 18th to the 21st, January 2025. So our election will be November 24. Presidents get inaugurated in January. So there is no window for this trip. We will leave early the 18th and we'll come back late on the 21st. How early? How late? Well, usually it's around 8, 9. But my last trip was early. I think it was like, we were the first flight out. What, 4 or 5? It was insane. But we had a whole day in DC. And then we land about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And they're direct flights. So what do we do in DC? Well, first you find me in Tampa. I'll be in the airport, whatever airline that we fly out of. A lot of times it was United or American. The last time it was Southwest. I usually wait right there at the departure gate of whatever airline, wearing something bright and colorful. I have a coffee in my hand because it's early, and I corral the children as you let them go, and I put them somewhere safe till I get all the children's, and then we go get our tickets, and we go through security, and then we get on a plane. Some of the kids, this is the first time ever flying. We've all had pleasurable experiences so far going through security. Tampa's a great airport, so it's actually like the best airport to try to do this in because they move pretty quickly. And when you leave early in the morning, like we do, there's no lines at TSA. We were great. Like last time, we were the first ones out. Literally, we were there before the TSA agents were there. They opened, we went right through. So that's a lot of fun. When we land, we meet our tour director. They are waiting there with a little sign like in the movies, like, "Hey, Mr. Essig Group, where are you?" And then we go get them, and we get right on the coach bus and we go. So right there, we do not wait for baggage because we don't check baggage. You get a carry-on and a backpack. And I give you a backpack from EF, and it glows, and it's like illuminated at night, and it's great. And a carry-on, and you're going for like 4 days, so we could definitely make that work. I've been on 6 days trips, and the girls are always like, "How am I gonna fit all the stuff?" They fit all the stuff. We can have a packing party, practice. It's great, but you get a carry-on, you get a backpack, and we make it work. Because any downtime, whether it's checking bags, going through the little thing down at the airport, it just eats up into our time. So what do? Most of the stuff in DC. The only thing that we do differently from this trip to last trip is we don't get to enter the Capitol building because we get to see the Capitol building be the site of the inauguration. And that's where the president's being inaugurated, and they don't have time to strike the stuff down to make it open to the public. But everything else we do. We go to the Washington Monument, the FDR Monument, Martin Luther King, Jefferson Memorial, Smithsonian. We did 2 last time. We did Natural History and Science Museum and a Natural History Museum. We do Arlington. The last time was the best time for Arlington. We went during Memorial Day weekend, and we got to lay flowers at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and watch the changing of the guard. We get to visit a couple other famous sites at Arlington, like the Kennedys. We go to Korea, Vietnam, or Marine, World War II memorials. We go to the White House. We take a photo op of the White House. We don't go inside the White House. That actually just opened up, and so one of my trips, I'm going to try to get into the White House. I just don't know how to make that happen yet. We go to Mount Vernon, wrong geography, sorry. Mount Vernon, where George Washington, our first president, lived. We get to see the grounds where he was buried. You think that he was president of the United States, we'd have this big fancy tomb and he'd be buried somewhere. He's not, but we will find it. Or whoever finds the first time a trip gets a bonus. There's usually like bonuses and gifts and little quizzes and little like fun activities that we do throughout the day. Then we get to go through Inauguration Day, which I'm super stoked for because I want to see history come alive. The oath of office, the presidential inauguration address, the parade, and then there's a ball. So there's a middle school ball, but if you're in high school when you eventually go on my trip, there's also a high school ball. So we'll split the group, and I'll have some chaperones go to the high school, I'll have some chaperones go to the middle school, and we will have a ball, literally. And then we'll take a photo up at the Capitol Supreme Court, which you can't go inside most of the time anyways, and the Library of Congress. I'm going to see if we can get inside the Library of Congress. There's some pretty cool stuff inside there, like the Gutenberg Bible, and they usually have a traveling exhibit. All right, so before the tour begins, you don't have to lift a finger. When the tour goes off, because everything is done for you. Sorry, my computer froze. Meals, flights, hotels, attractions are all booked for us through EF. So there is no third-party negotiations that go on that you have to handle even when you're signing up, or if you ever had to back out for whatever reason. It's all handled through EF. EF just gives you money back and you don't have to worry about it. That includes gratuities. Everything is booked through EF. There's always a one-on-one support specialist who speaks multiple different languages if you ever need the help. And there's a 24-hour emergency hotline. If we're on tour, you need to get in touch with us, but you can't get in touch with us. You can call them and they will call the tour director, and she's always, or he's always, they are always available. They have like 2 phones. It's crazy. They're always planning meals and calling coaches. It's a great time. You can earn scholarships if you need to. There's always a page for that. The other thing is, besides a scholarship, there is the personal travel page. So it works like a GoFundMe, except they don't take a cut. So it's a GoFundMe built in directly with EF. All that monies goes 100% to your child's or yours trip. I really wish my daughter would take care of this a little bit more. I do push it out, but it means something more when the grandkid is pushing it to the grandparents. But I know somebody who spoke on Thursday that their child almost had the whole trip paid for through the giving page. So they reached out at church, at baseball games, and family, and they had most of their trip paid for, which is pretty fantastic. I'm going to have my Abigail get on that because that would help. So like I said, there is a 24-hour tour director with us all the time, meaning they handle all the logistics from when we get up until when we get back. If there's a detour, accident, we're running late, anything, they handle it. Even if we're running late and the coach driver can only drive so many hours a day, if they have to like meet another driver so that a new driver can hop on the bus and drive so your children are good and the coach drivers don't violate their time commitment slots, they will. So they are fantastic at calling wherever we're eating and saying, hey, you have 45, 50 people coming. They know we're coming, but we're on the way. And when we get there, we're like VIPs. We're ushered into the restaurants, and we never wait to eat. We're always ready to go, which is great because we put some serious miles on our shoes when we walk. We walk a lot. But when the kiddos get sat down, they get their food. Either it's already like pre-ordered with little menus on the bus, or they order what they want, or we go to some restaurants and they just offer you a smorgasbord of all their food. It's kind of like buffet family style, and you just eat and eat and eat until you're full. So, and by at night we're hungry. At least Mr. Essig is always hungry, but the kids eat pretty well too. Adults, if you come on the trip, the restaurants are kid-friendly restaurants. They're catered towards kids' food choices. We're not having any 5-star restaurant type of experiences here that are going to serve some meals that maybe kids wouldn't like. So they're more geared towards kids. And if you come on the trip, you have to like be with us all the time and follow the same rules as kids follow. Again, there's one chaperone for every 10 kids at least, plus myself and a tour director. Hold on one second. Okay. So that is all the things. I will get on to the next slide and then we will move on. Sorry, I just had my phone go crazy for a second. All right, so after the tour success, so the key thing here for us for middle school is there's high school credit courses. My high schoolers who will be middle schoolers who will be high schoolers at this time, there are college admission help thingamabobs that help you build like a college admission essay around this trip. And all the experiences you've been in, and they kind of help you like put that on your resume to make you stand out. Hillsborough County does recognize EF and has the credits there. When you sign up, there's a little link for the giving page, and there's a link for the high school credits and the college stuff. When we're on tour, they went cashless during COVID, so they don't handle all the cash anymore to all the peoples. So for lunch, usually we'll stop at, in New York is like sometimes we stopped at places where there are food trucks, or there are a bunch of like local micro food places, and the kids get to kind of pick what kind of food experiences they wanted to have. They used to give them like 15 or 20 bucks. Now they load it on a card. Parents, if you don't want them to have their personal card because you're afraid they're going to lose it, this works perfectly well too. You can transfer and move money back and forth to it. The till cards are usually collected at the end of the trip. So kids spend all their money and then they hand them back. All their information is deactivated and they just reuse those cards for the next trip for the next group. But you can move the money back off of it, or you just load enough so the kids spend it all and balance zeroes out the balance. Okay. So the numbers say that the kids love the trip. They expand their knowledge of the world. They discover more about themselves. That's 100% true. These kids sometimes are a little timid. They're still growing out to figure out who they are. But sometimes when they get away from the nest a little bit, they kind of figure out a little bit more about who they are, and they realize how much they can do, and they are fantastic. I have not had one problem with one child on 4 trips, and I take about 30 kids per trip, so that's about 120 kids. It's been fantastic, and usually it rejuvenates Mr. Essig to want to keep teaching because they have fun with my topic, and sometimes history and civics is not always the funnest thing in class. They say that they learn about new places, people, and cultures. We go to New York and DC. I mean, it's still America, but it's a different culture. And then they become more confident and independent. I will also say that sometimes we don't fill a whole bus. So a bus could take 40 to 50 people. If we have 30, sometimes we're with another group or two, depending on how small they are. But they're all with EF. They're not with any other travel agency. And they all have to be verified. All the adults have to be passed background checks, all the things. So they know who's on that bus. Now, why I say that? Because like my last trip before COVID, 2019-ish range, I had a boy who was not super duper in with the crowds that were traveling with us from Turkey Creek, I want to say. And he found a kid from Texas and a kid from California who were sharing our bus. They became best friends. They went through high school. Yep. They just got done with high school and they got into college together. They're going to the same college and they're roommates. And they send me updates all the time. So it's pretty cool. These kids grew up in Florida, Texas, and California. Now they're good friends. They're going to college together. They're roommates together. And they found each other through EF, which is pretty awesome. I have a bunch of other kids who found friends who had friends that maybe they didn't know from Barrington, but they became good friends with people in Barrington. And I have kids come to me all the time and say like, hey, Mr. Essig, your trip was fantastic. And it means a lot. So I spoke about the protection page before. This is all the things that they protect. They roll into our payment plan. And I do that on your behalf. I add the best payment package to it because I think that's important, that you are fully protected and that if anything were to happen up to the day of the trip, or you can get your money back. If you want to call the toll-free number at the end and lower your protection package, that is your prerogative, but I would say you never know what life happens. And to have that trip up, to have everything covered up until the day of the trip is a huge load off of my mind, especially with my daughter and gymnastics and cheerleading and stuff like that. You never know what happens. Flight delay coverage, tour interruption coverage. So they have backup plans for flights. They have backup plans if the tour cannot continue doing what it normally would do and we have to kind of like pivot. They all have all of that. Baggage and property coverage, maximum refund available. There's a little star right because you have to pay your down payment, but they give you everything else back. Cancel for coverage reasons up to the day of departure, and cancel for any reason up to the day of departure. So I do that last little box. You get all the things, and you don't have to like submit a claim to say like why do I want to cancel. You can just say I'm done, and you get your money back. So everything that's included. Oh man, my face is blocking the EF swag. So you usually get like a backpack, a lanyard. It's reflective. It glows. Oh, I don't have it. Oh, I have mine. So here's my backpack. It has a ton of stuff in it, but it's reflective and it glows. I had a satchel. They give the kids an actual backpack. It's great. All the airfares included direct flights both ways. They don't do any flights that are not direct flights because there are minors on board. A full-time tour director. Hotel accommodations. There are at least 3 to 4 star hotels just outside the city. We have 10-to-1 student chaperone ratio. Breakfast, lunch daily. Breakfast is usually the continental breakfast at the hotel, but because we are feeding 50 people, usually they hook us up with like this gigantic breakfast of all the options. And if you want something special, they'll make it for you. Lunch is usually like a local dive spot, like that locals would love to eat, that the kids get to kind of enjoy. So the one that they love the most is like a real New York slice of pizza. And so the way that they talked about how they pivot, our last trip we had to pivot a little bit, and so they didn't stop at the EF normal place, but Mr. Essig, growing up in Boston and New York all the time, and the tour director growing up in New York, knew of a little place that had the best New York pizza, and this guy just opened, and it was like 12 o'clock, and he had like 50 kids that were hungry, and it was the best pizza that they had. They wanted seconds, so at dinner time we circled back. They wanted more pizza, and we got some pizza for the bus home that day after dinner, and they kind of had it as a snack because sometimes these kids can eat. Professional overnight security. So I can't say enough about this. They don't just get a good hotel, keep all the kids in the same floor. They have security guards that sit in the hallway, so no one can come mess with the doors, no one can mess with the kids, no one can go near the doors. They know who the tour director is and the chaperone, the lead chaperone is, and that's the only one who can knock on a door or anything with those kids. Nothing else can go near those kids. The kiddos, once it's lights out, they can't leave the rooms. Okay. We get back at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and we probably walk 3 to 5 miles a day. You're tired. You're sweaty. You usually jump in the shower. 2 at night, 2 in the morning, because there's up to 4 kids in a room, but it's only boys or girls. There's no co-ed rooms, and there's no adults in the rooms. Unless you're a child's adult and you want to upgrade that child to your room, that's okay. Other than that, there is never an adult in a child's room. High school and college credits, the TIL card, on-tour transportation. We get our own private tour bus. Not the last time, the time before, we had Clemson's national winning team, so it was this big, bright orange bus. Actually, it was fantastic because like we'll be like, kids, get on the bus. And sometimes there's a lot of tour buses, but ours was bright orange. They couldn't miss it. It's nice to have one bus and one driver. We can leave stuff on the bus, so there are times where you have to go through security, and less is more in that case. So we don't always take everything with us because going through security probably during the inauguration and they're like funneling through backpacks, it takes forever. We could just have what's on us and walk through. It's a lot faster. Guided tours, activities, and entries. Local experts, 24-hour emergency assistance. So pretty much any place that we go, we have local tour guides that will lead us on our own private tour. Illness and accident cover, travel support team, all gratuities, and that personalized giving page. Yep. So one of the nights that we're in DC, we'll do a night activity, like after everything kind of settles down, and it's usually a ghost tour of Alexandria, and it's just a really neat, cool, fun, like not super like learny experience that the kids have a great time on. All right, so where you're all like, how much is this going to cost me, Mr. Essig? So the total price is $3,002. It is $94 a month. I do the bi-weekly payments because I need that little bit of wiggle room with my paychecks. So I completely get it. You can set up any type of payment plan you want. These are just the two automatic payment plans that you can enroll in, but you can call the number on the next slide and you can pretty much set up any way you want to do it. I had people who work seasonal work and said, hey, I can put like a little bit down each month, but when I get paid my seasonal rate, I'll pay off the whole trip, and they have, and they're cool with it. I do know that everybody has to be paid up by like November of next year. So usually I do this tour launch in the spring, which I did, but I'm doing it again because I heard a lot of interest in it. So I try to give you as much time to pay for the trip as possible because it is expensive, and I get that. So that's why I would never launch a trip that is going in the same year, because it would be a little too much for most families to handle. And so I'm trying to break it up as much as possible for you. So enrollment deadline is October 13th, 2023. There are limited spots available. So I did this Thursday night. Whenever you're watching this is being recorded on Friday. I had at least 10 to 12 people sign up last night. I've had at least 15 people sign up before. So the math is around high 20s right now. When the bus is filled, the bus is filled. That is where my cap is. It's where the bus is filled. Sometimes they can get a bigger bus if we can show that we have the demand for it, but when that coach bus is full, that coach bus is full. So there are limited spots. So if you're interested, when we get to the next page, there's a QR code, which is easy to fill out. Even Mr. Essig did it. Or there's a number that you can call and get things squared away. So here's where you can enroll. Our tour ID is 26562SP. You can always call 1-88-333-9756. You could copy and paste this link, or you could just type in this link, efexploreamerica.com/2656252SP. And like I said before, there are a lot of options to help pay for this trip. The personalized page is a great way to help pay for this trip. I do understand the financial burden that it places on parents, which is why I try to give you as much time as possible. I am sacrificing myself to my daughter to go on this trip and for myself to go on this trip. So I figure I spend around, like $7 every time I go to Dunkin' now, right, with a coffee and a donut or a bagel. So I cut Dunkin' out, and not that that made all the math, because I'm not saying it does. But $7 a day, for me, it's like $200 a month. I don't go on weekends, but cutting Dunkin' out and making nice coffee at home helps support my child's EF experience, which is quite a sacrifice if you know Mr. Essig, because I love my iced coffee, but I love my daughter more. So, yeah, I am fully available. So if you need me, the best way to get in touch with me is through my email at school. So you can even go to the school, Barrington Middle School webpage, find Mr. Essig, and copy paste my email there and send off an email. Or you can, brain is not working, it's Darren, D-A-R-E-N Essig, E-S-S-I-G, at hcps.net. That's my email address. So if you need to pause it, rewind, go back, it's cool. You can shoot me off a message. I'll answer any questions that you have. If you know somebody else who might be interested, feel free to share this link. And I hope to see your child on this tour, because unlike my other tours, this can't happen again for another 4 years. So I appreciate your time listening to me, and I hope you have a great day. Email me if you have any questions, and I'll be glad to help. Bye.